Just check.
Oh, I'm live. Hello. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the office or man cave or spare bedroom when my parents come and stay. Welcome to the celebration of Claire's Allotment 500 episodes. I have my glamorous assistant and tech guru here, Mark, because if he's not here and something technical goes weird, I will completely freak out. So we are basically going to look back at how I started. And some of you have sent in questions. And if you have got questions, then please. Oh, lovely. Hello from London. Hello, Diary of a UK Gardener.
Hello.
Sean? No. Yes, it is. Sean, yes. Hello, Sean. Nice to see you. So if you have got... This video is unlisted.
Yeah,
I didn't.
right.
Yes, that's fine. That's fine. Don't worry.
It's only for loyal subscribers.
Yes, look, yes. Yes, we will put this back on, and you'll be able to see it. Anyway, so Claire's Allotment started 11 years ago. How is that possible? And it started because I took on a second allotment, and Mark suggested, why don't you video how to go from an overgrown allotment to a working allotment? And I thought he was completely loopy and completely mad, and I said, who is going to watch that? And clearly you have. So I now have over 17,000 subscribers, and that was 11 years ago. And yes, lots has happened. I have had quite a few questions, and we will start with some of those. I've had various ones from people saying, Claire, are you going to do this naked? The answer to that is clearly, as you can see, no, I'm not.
Ooh,
firstly, it is not Naked Gardening Day. That is tomorrow. So I am most probably going to be in the garden at some point. Gardening, maybe, I don't know, we'll just see. I'm just worried because we're going to have a frost tonight, and tomorrow morning will be very, very chilly, but I may well pop out anyway. So if you are gardening tomorrow naked, then yes, just be aware. Don't be aware of the sun, just be aware of frostbite. So let's get going. I have got a question here from Stebaz723. Now, I do apologise if I actually pronounce these wrong.
Actually, that might be Stebaz7, and the question was 23 hours ago.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry. So anyway, Stebaz7, it says, hi, Claire. What do you do for a living? Is this your full-time job? The answer is, yes, I do have a job. I garden for people, believe it or not. I used to do, before we moved, I used to do theatre and education. And then when we moved, I couldn't do that because it was too far away. So I now garden for people 3 or 4 days a week. They're all local people. I'm a local gardener for local people. And then the times that I am not gardening for other people, then I do garden here in my garden at home. So I basically spend the entire week getting dirty. Mark says my nails are never clean.
Show them your nails.
Well, actually, they are quite clean today.
No, that's not, the camera's there.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, they're actually fairly clean today. I have been making a cake today for George, which is a Star Wars cake. So anyway, but that's another thing. So they are fairly clean. But before I do bake, I always make sure that I do clean my nails. But I don't have delicate hands at all. So I hope that answers your question. Next question is from Jane Kelly. She says, ooh, here's a tricky one. What fruit or vegetable would you recommend to someone who has never grown any before? Well, there's all sorts. It depends how much space you have. But if you're a newbie, what I would suggest is, for fruit, I would suggest growing strawberries. Now, strawberries are very, very easy to grow. You can either go to a garden centre or a nursery and pick them up in a pot. They usually cost a little bit more, But if you can say order from an online company, usually they come bare rooted. Now, bare rooted means that you get the plant and the root, and there's no soil or very, very small amount of soil with them. They don't come in a pot. They're all exactly the same. It just means that they're not in a pot. It's just the plant itself that you get. Strawberries tend not to take up a huge amount of room. You can either, if you have the space outside, then grow them outside, you know, in the soil. If you have very limited space, then you can grow them in pots, or you can grow them in troughs. So they're not something that takes up a huge amount of space. You can get these barrels which you can grow them in, and they are good to a certain degree, but these barrels tend to be quite high, and I usually find that you water from the top and the plants down the bottom tend not to get as much water and tend not to last. So you can water the little sections individually, but it does take a very long time, and they don't seem to do as well. So if you want to grow strawberries, if you're a newbie, then try and grow them in big sort of terracotta pots or big plastic pots or troughs. They would do well. And the vegetables, I would suggest either radishes, because they're very, very quick to grow and they are lovely, really, really nice. It was actually the first vegetable that I ever grew when I was about 7 years old, and I've loved them ever since. Or you can grow dwarf French beans. Now, usually people think of French beans that they have to grow up a structure, whereas if you grow dwarf French beans, they only tend to grow to about 18 inches to about 2 feet high, and they're self-supporting. So again, if you don't have much space, you can grow dwarf French beans in a pot or a trough or something like that on a patio, and they would do really, really well. Okay, Allmark's just pointing out, I'm thinking of growing asparagus for the first time. Any advice? This is from a Diary of a UK Gardener. Now, this is Sean. Sorry, the pictures are so small that it's very difficult. Yes, it's Sean because he's wearing his hat. So, asparagus. I have asparagus, and I grew my asparagus from seed. Asparagus is a very long investment because you will sow the seeds and they will grow up beautifully, and you'll get these tiny little spears about 2-3 inches tall, and they are so skinny. Just leave them to grow and to sort of then get their fronds on them. When you then plant it out into the garden, which can be that year that you've sown them or the following year, you have to let it settle, and you tend not to harvest your first lot of spears for about 3 years after you've planted it. So it is quite a long investment, but it really is well worth it. As I say, I grew mine from seed. I then it went to the allotment. When we moved, I dug it up from the allotment, and now it's over in a bed over there, and we've been harvesting it, and it's doing really, really well. It's lovely. I've got nice big fat spears that are about, what would you say, about half an inch thick in diameter? Yeah. Yes. Just like to, so you could in some places you can actually buy small plants, but again you would need to let it settle for 2-3 years, and then you can start harvesting. I planted seeds of asparagus directly in the garden. This is from Luigi. In the garden about 2 weeks ago for the first time. Really curious to see what will happen. Well, what will happen when asparagus comes up is you'll get a little spear just coming straight up, and it will look like just little green points all the way along, and just leave that to grow and to get bigger, and to just just get into its fronds and leave the fronds up there. Once they've gone brown in the autumn, then cut them down, and then asparagus goes to sleep over the winter. Give it a top dressing of, say, some well-rotted manure or some organic matter from the compost bin, and then it will be very happy. In the following spring, it will start to come up again. But then you'll just have to be patient and wait for a good couple of years.
We've got people from Heather's from Canada.
Okay.
Luigi's from Missouri.
Right. Okay. Yes, we've got lots of people. Hello. We've got Heather, who is, oh gosh, British Caledonia.
British Columbia.
Columbia.
British Caledonia was an airline.
Oh,
dear.
it was.
Do you remember?
I did an in-flight movie for them. Good Lord. You'll never see that. Went to St. Lucia. It's very nice. Hello. Hooray. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Heather. Who else are we saying? Minnesota.
Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri in US, Missouri. That's lovely. Thank you very much. Hello. What is your favorite variety of tomato? This is from Heather in Canada. I'm growing black crim. Oh, they're so nice. They're massive. They're fabulous. They're really juicy. To be honest with you, there are so many different varieties of tomato out there. I think my favorite has to be Sun Gold. They are a big cherry tomato. They're not sort of the middly size, but they're a big cherry tomato, and they're sort of a dark yellowy orange, and they're just really sweet and juicy, and they're absolutely fabulous. But black crim are really, really tasty, really nice. I think they're fabulous, and they're really dark inside as well. Oh, sorry, microphone. Where are?
Maybe go to the next.
Oh yes, okay, righty ho. It's the first time I've done this, so I'm all very confused. Right. Amy Smith said, could you do a plot tour? I'd love to see what it looks like as a whole. Okay, now what I planned to do this year is basically a garden update once a month. I think I did one in February. I didn't get a chance to do one in March, but I have done an April one. But it's episode 505. Now, if this is 500, you haven't got much longer to wait. I think our daughter upstairs is editing it now as we speak. So you should see it the very beginning of next week. I will do another one in May, so you can sort of see how everything's getting on and do a little tour for you. So that's what I'm planning on doing. But I was so busy. I'm so sorry. But yes, there is one coming. So I hope that helps. Okay. Oh, yes. From Edwin Thompson. Oh, sorry, Thompson. Hi, Claire. I'm located in Sierra Vista, southern Arizona. Well, hello. One question. I grow tomatoes, all kinds of varieties. Problem is Roma. He gets blossom end rot, drives him crazy. Every year, the same thing happens, devastating my whole crop. Other tomato plants, fine. All grow in the same compost under the same growing conditions, identical. Basically, it really annoys him. Claire, I hope you can have an answer. Okay, now blossom end rot is very annoying. Blossom end rot is where you've got your tomato, and at the bottom you get like a it's not really a scab. It's like a black mark that goes really hard. Now, there are several reasons that you get that. It's basically a lack of calcium in the plant. Some tomato plants are more prone to it than others. What I would suggest is that you keep the soil around your tomatoes as moist as you can, not soggy, but moist at all times, especially if it gets very, very hot outside. Really keep on top of the watering. When I water my tomatoes, because I grow mine in the greenhouse, so they're in pots, they're in 3-litre pots, and they're then in trays. So I put the water in the trays, and then the water gets soaked up through the bottom of the pot, and then the plant takes it up. So make sure that the water doesn't run out. Also, the best thing to use if you can get hold of it is seaweed fertilizer. Now, seaweed fertilizer usually comes in a bottle. What I get is Shropshire seaweed fertilizer. Usually now you can get it from various other places, but you only ever used to be able to get it from Shropshire seaweed fertilizer. And it's really, really good. It comes in, or it used to come in 1 litre bottles or 5 litre bottles, and you just add a small amount. I think it's like 10 mil to like a 5 litre watering can, and that has got all the goodness in that all your tomatoes and all your plants really need. It's suitable for everything. So I would suggest, if you can get hold of some of that, if you find that your soil is lacks an awful lot of calcium, then maybe add a little bit of lime to the area as well, and hopefully that would help. So hopefully that will work for you. Do you miss from Sean, do you miss the allotment and the community? Do you know what? It was really sad to go. We've lived here for nearly 2 years now. In July, it will be 2 years. And I'd been on that allotment for 10 years. And it was really difficult to go because I got very attached to my plots, and I got very attached to the people that were there. So it was hard to go. But they gave me a lovely little send off. We had a meeting just before we left, and all the plot holders were there, and they all signed a card for me, and they gave me a little book, which actually is out on the bookshelf out in the hall, and it's got lots of pictures of people. Jay, go and get it. It's the one with go and get it. So I still email them, or some of them, not all of them, because there were so many of them, but the ones that I was really close to, and so we still communicate with each other. That's it. Oh, look. They gave me that. Now this is no, not Ruth. Oh God, I don't know why I'm looking at you. Isn't that terrible? I can't even remember what her name is. She's an absolute love, and she's in her 90s. She had been there. She was the first woman on site, and they got a toilet put in because she was the only woman, and all the men used to pee here, there, and everywhere. And it's Ruth Butcher. There she is, lovely little old lady. And because she was there, and obviously she needed to use some facilities, as you do, so they put in a toilet for her. She's on her bicycle here, and she used to cycle down every day. And the depressing thing was that if you cycled down, she would overtake you. And then she got a little bit too sort of unsteady on her legs, so she had to come down in her electric wheelchair, and she was really cross that she wasn't allowed to cycle anymore. And there's a picture of me in here. I saw it. There it is. That's me there behind some sweet corn. So yes, they gave me this, and they gave me a lovely card which I've got upstairs, and yes, it was really, really nice. You should go back and do an update video this summer. Oh gosh, do you know what? I don't know if I haven't got a key, so I can't get in. I'm not climbing over the fence because they put some of that anti-climb paint over on the side. Maybe I could actually. I'll have to. Maybe I can speak to Amy or something, or Malcolm. Malcolm's good. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll give Malcolm a call and see if I can pop down. That's an idea. I better write that down. Would you be able to do video later in the year? This is from Joanne Barlow about growing for the hungry gap.
What's the hungry
What's
gap?
the hungry gap?
We'll wait and see if John gives you an answer.
And oh, Heather, another one from Heather. Hello, Heather. My garden is spectacular. All thanks to you and your amazing knowledge. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much. That's just lovely.
Okay, so that's the hungry gap.
Okay, when no food is around, in April, May. Okay, thank you for that. Would you be able to do a video later in the year about growing for the hungry gap? I'll see what I can do. Let me write this down. Okay.
I'll do it.
Oh, can you do that?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, I'll see if I can sort that out. Gosh, I've got lots of videos to do. Okay, right, we've done that chap here. Okay. Right, this is from Dan 8211.
That's
821 one
Yeah.
day ago. Where is there not a space there? Anyway,
Copy and
oh,
pasting.
God, you know. Right. Dan has said, wow, 500 episodes and over 17,000 subscribers. Wonderful. I will try to attend the live session. I wonder if you are, Dan. If you are, Dan, send us a little note. So my question is how the allotment system works for your garden area. Is it like a lease? How long do you have a given plot or land to raise your garden? I think it would be interesting for the ones of us in the States. So he's obviously in the US. That is not familiar how it works. Right. Well, there's several questions there. So let's start. Where should we start? My question is, how does the allotment system work? Right. In the UK, if you're not from the UK, if you want an allotment, you have to go and speak to your local council, which is easier said than done. It depends who you speak to. Some councils are far more organised than others. Some have a specific allotment section that you go and speak to that, a certain person, department. Others don't. But where I used to be, they did have a department, and you would phone up the council and say, I would like an allotment, and they would tell you the ones that were in the borough that you were in. There were about 7 of them, I think. And you would say, okay, well, this one's nearest to my house. I'd like one on there. If there was a space, then you would be allocated a plot. If there were more than one, if there were quite a few, you would go down and you would meet somebody who would show you round, and you would choose a plot that you wanted because they varied in size. Then once you'd been allocated, or you decided which plot you had, then you would sign a form, and you would be given the keys, and you could have that plot for as long as you wanted. They would come round and check once a year. If you hadn't done anything on your plot, then the council would ask you, did you want to keep it? And if you said yes, then they would give you a little bit more time to go and sort something, to sort of dig some over and show that you were actually going to do something. If you clearly didn't do anything for a while, then they would kick you off, because usually there was a waiting list, so somebody else could have that plot. So you could have it for as long as you wanted. It wasn't just like you had it for that one season and then you had to hand it back. You had it for as long as you wanted to, or until you were kicked off. I hope that answers all of those questions. Yes, how long? Yes. Okay.
And then more chat about the hungry gap.
Oh, okay. Where is it? Oh,
So
yes.
Sean says the reason it's called the hungry gap because there's nothing to harvest then. Ha ha.
Well, there is. I've harvested radishes. Can live off radishes. Yeah, it's a difficult thing, because some things take a lot longer to grow than others. I mean, usually now we tend not to sort of eat seasonally. We tend to we eat stuff that is, in season, but because we get lots of produce from all over the place, we seem to be able to eat what we want when we want it, because you can get it from another country. I think if you had a heated greenhouse, you could bring things on earlier, like lettuces and kale you could bring on slightly earlier. But most of us don't have the luxury of a heated greenhouse that we can sort of use 24 it's 365 days a year. So yes, it's all very, very seasonal. There is some produce that you can actually grow um, over the winter, but unless of course you can store your carrots and your parsnips. They tend to store best if in sort of crates in sand. If you can store those maybe up in a cool garage or a very cool loft, then yes, you just have to sort of, yeah, you have to buy things. I try not to buy stuff, as try and grow as much as I can. But yeah, I, that sort of helps. I don't know.
Another question there from Joe.
Right. Okay. I am just about to plant from Joanne Barlow. I'm just about to plant cucumbers. What advice would you give to me on growing them? I recently read that you should pick off the first few little cucumbers. Is that correct? Now, when are you sowing from seed to plant cucumbers? Okay, if you're sowing from seed, get them in as soon as possible. Make sure that you sow your seeds not flat, but like that. Okay, so that they won't they won't rot, because it's like with any of your cucurbits. So your courgettes, your squashes, your pumpkins, always sow, and melons as well, always sow the seeds like that and not flat like that, because the water will come down and then will run over them, and the water won't sit on top. Whereas if they're like that, the water will come down and sit on top, and you're more likely to rot your seeds if you overwater. So what I would suggest, I mean, I've planted my cucumbers. They're still in little pots. They're not in big pots yet. So what I would suggest you do, I don't ever take off any of the cucumbers as they're growing. If some of them, as they're producing, if they start to go sort of brown and soft, then nip those off, because you do find that sometimes, that as you find it in courgettes as well. Sometimes you may well find that lots start to develop, and then the odd one or two will start to sort of go yellow and then brown. You'll find this with cucumbers. Just take off any that aren't developing properly, and then the plant can actually put all its energy into producing more and concentrating on all the good ones rather than the ones that we don't want.
Going back to the hungry back cat, Luigi says,
in April and May, I eat dead nettle, chickweed, violet, henbit, and dandelion. They are free. People call them weeds. To me, they are food for free. Yes, I have. Oh, we have some nettles. just a few. It's a shame you can't do anything with them. Yeah, they're. Yes. Well, yes. If you want to go out, if you can find any of those, then by all means, use those. If I put those on the plate and said to George, "Here we are, darling. Here's dinner," he'd most probably look at me and go, "What are you giving me, woman? Can I have some sausages?" Yes, if you can, dandelions are lovely. Nettles make really good tea. The new nettles are the best ones for that, but just be careful not to prickle yourself.
Sean says, "Are you going to any shows?"
Am I going to? Yes, Sean, yes, I am going to shows. Do you know what? I am dragging Mark up to Gardener's World.
Great.
I haven't been to Gardener's World for 2 years, because 2 years ago we were moving, and then last year I was so busy I just didn't get round to it. But I thought, no, this year I want to go. So we're going up we're there on the Friday. Yes, we're on the Friday. I'm working on the Thursday, and then as soon as I get home, then we're driving up to Birmingham, and then we're seeing the show on the Friday, staying the night, and then driving home on the Saturday, because it's quite a long trip now from where we live. So yes, and we'll see good food as well, which will be good.
Sean says you do live video from John's one.
Oh, I
Read it
don't
out loud.
know. Sean says you should do a live video from Gardener's World Live. Well, I will have my tech genius with me, so I don't. I don't know. We'll see. Oh yes, another one from Heather. Do you nip off the first flowers of melon plants too? I'm growing orange sherbet melons. Oh, they're lovely. And the first flowers appeared yesterday, but they're still in the greenhouse. Now, I don't nip off any of the flowers on my melons, but what I would suggest you do if you are growing them in the greenhouse, I'm growing Emir this year, which apparently are really, really good for the UK climate. If you find that the flowers aren't setting and the fruit isn't setting, what you will need to do is you'll need to get a little paintbrush and you'll need to tickle the flowers. And that way you can distribute the pollen. You have to do the same, or you may well have to do the same with aubergines as well, because they are notoriously difficult. You'll get loads of flowers and then the fruits won't set. So get in with your little paintbrush and then just sort of tickle them about. And hopefully that would be the same job that the bees would do, because growing in the greenhouse, getting pollinators in, you will get pollinators in, but sometimes the plants just need a little helping hand. Okay, have we got any more? Do you no? Oh, are there any?
No, that's it. Any more
There
questions?
has to be something, surely. Okay. Oh no. Oh, how do I go up?
No, that's it. That's all.
Oh, is that
questions.
it?
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Is that it?
Yeah. Anyone?
Anyone got any questions? Otherwise, we'll be sitting here for the next half an hour.
How much longer are you going to do this thing for?
What, the allotments?
Yeah.
The what? My videos?
The videos, yeah.
Well, I will keep doing them for as long as you want me to do them. I'm quite happy to do them because I'm so busy now. I can film them, and we now have to pay our daughter to edit them because I don't have time to edit them, which is actually great. Because I then get home from work and she says to me, "Oh, I've done these ones, Mum," and then I just have to write the little bit of blurb, and then I go, "I've done that, my darling," and then she sorts the rest out for me, which is great, which is really good. But yes, I will keep doing these videos for as long as you want me to. I'm quite happy to do them because lots of new things happen every year. I'm trying to think of what am I growing new this year that I haven't grown.
Sean's question.
Okay. What am I growing this year? Do you know what? I'm just trying to think. Lemongrass. Oh no, but I've grown that before. Oh, I tell you what I am growing this year. Purslane I'm growing this year for the first time. Lamb's lettuce I am growing for the first time. Oh, I tell you what I did grow for the first time. Why I've never grown it before, I've no idea. I've grown onions from seed. Now, usually I grow my onions from sets, which are the little tiny onions. And I thought, no, this year I will grow them from seed, and they have been growing really, really well. I've got one lot out. The other ones are waiting to go out. They're nearly big enough. So yes, I'm sure there's other bits and pieces, but yes. Next one. What can you tell me about growing? Oh, globe artichoke. Oh no, are you talking about the aubergines?
No.
Oh no, the globe artichokes. Okay, from Mick Hurst 24. Can you tell me about growing globe artichokes? Globe artichokes are lovely. You can sow those from seed. They are very, very easy to sow. I did sow mine from seed, and gosh, when did I sow those? This was years and years ago. It must have been in about March, April time, and they germinated really well. You once they get to about 1 inch tall, then prick them out into individual pots and let them get a little bit bigger. When they look sort of too big for the pot, then plant them outside. You need to, they will take up quite a lot of space. So give them about 18 inches between plants, more if you can. If you can give them 2 feet between each plant, then do. But 18 inches should be enough. And they will just grow quite happily. Once they're in the ground, they will just grow really, really well. At the end of the season, most of the leaves will go brown and die. Remove those, put those on the compost heap. Sometimes you will find that all the leaves will disappear over winter and then they will come back in the spring. Sometimes, and I've had this, that some leaves are always green. I've got some, actually you can't see it, but I can see some here. And I bought those where I used to work. I was told to throw them away because they were all a bit, didn't look very good. And so I brought them home and gave them a bit of Claire loving. And they are about 4 foot tall now. And they've been lovely. So the flowers will come up. And I don't usually harvest the flowers because the bees love the flowers, and I usually let them open up, and then you'll get the big purple flower on top, which the bees will come onto, and that's what I do with them. But they are very easy to sow. Onions from seed also store much longer, around 6 months. Oh, thank you very much, Sean. I didn't, because it's the first time I've done those. I wasn't sure. April Monday, I'm growing purple sprouting broccoli from seed this year for the first time. Is there anything special I should be doing for them? Purple sprouting broccoli is just lovely. It's so nice. It does take quite a long time to start producing, but once you put it in the ground, you can, if your plants are about 8 inches tall now, then get them out into the ground as long as it's warm enough where you are. All my brassicas are all out already. And I would suggest making sure that you protect them from the slugs and snails, whichever way you see fit. There are plenty of ways to protect from slugs and snails. You can either use crushed up eggshells, coffee grounds. Somebody, I replied to a message today, and they said that they get all their old coffee grounds from Starbucks. Am I allowed to say that? One of the big coffee companies. So there we go. I don't drink any of them. So you can put those round, because coffee grounds, when a slug or a snail goes across it, it actually dries out its foot and they don't like it. So they tend not to go on it. You can also use dog hair or pet hair, because again, that's quite rough. Sand with ballast, that is. And my favorite one, I've got a lovely little book called 50 Ways to Kill a Slug. My favorite one, which I haven't tried, is they like oatmeal, and when they eat oatmeal, it swells up inside them. I'm just going to leave you with that. Okay. So once you've protected them from the base, you need to protect them from the birds, because the birds will like them, especially pigeons, or if you have an issue with pheasants, or any sort of wild birds, they will like to feast on them. So what I would suggest you do is you net them. I've made a couple of brassica cages, which I'm very proud of, very pleased. So they have sort of plastic netting going across, which I had. If you don't want to use the plastic netting, then you can use the very, very tiny chicken wire, but it is a bit of a bugger to keep cutting. So and then I've stapled it to the frame. Another one from Sean. I've got slow worms. Oh, yes, they do. Slow worms are you know what? I hadn't seen a slow worm for ages. Slow worms are lovely. They look a little bit like a very small snake. Fascinating creatures. They really are. They're long and thin. They're about the thickness of a pencil, and they have a little forked tongue. So yes, if you can get some of those, or hedgehogs, if you can get hedgehogs or toads or frogs in your garden, then they will assist with your little gastropod problem. Nematodes are very expensive, and if you've got a big space to cover, then it will cost you an absolute fortune. Oh yes, I'll try. April says she'll try eggshells. I've got chickens. So have we. Aren't they slightly mental? Are they? Mine are. I've got 2 that are completely petrified of being picked up, and the other 3 just always want to come for a cuddle. So I don't know, mental. But yes, once you've used the eggshells, just crush them up, but not too small. So you make sure that you've got lots of spiky bits, and then just put a nice thick ring round the base. What do your kids think about mum being crazy internet famous? They're fine. They don't mind that at all, because they've changed schools, especially for George. Nobody knows who I am, which he is very, very pleased about, because where we lived before, they had to change schools because we moved 70 miles away ish. So the school that our son was at before was when episode 200 came out, and obviously one of his friends saw it, and then it went round the entire school, so everybody knew. And some of the boys were slightly unkind. One of the teachers phoned me up and said, why don't you take it down? And I said, no. I didn't tell him that it was my biggest earner. I said, it's not going to stop them, is it? So it's always been up. And George is really quite pleased that nobody at his school now actually knows anything. But he went for a camping trip at school, and he had for about a week near the end of one of the school years. And I walked in because he had his luggage and I had his other bits and pieces that he needed. And we went into the car park, the school car park, and all the boys, they were like, oh. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Oh. Sorry.
This is the side of Claire that you don't see, folks.
I'm sorry. So yes, but yes, I had to go and pick him up from school once because he'd broken a bone of some description, and had to go and get his food tech stuff, and just walk straight through a group of these boys. And George was like, "They know who you are." So yes, but no, they're fine. They don't mind.
Keep the questions coming.
Oh yes, keep the questions coming. The naked episode. Yes, the naked episode.
And any plans to do any more nudity on screen? Asking for a friend.
You know what? When George was having all that trouble at school, I did say to the teacher, "Look, do you want me to come in and tell them how I filmed it?" They never took me up on that offer, but I was quite happy to stand up. It was an all-boys school that he was at, and I was quite happy to stand up in front of all the boys and tell them how I filmed it, what I was wearing, and if they had any questions. But no, it was never. Nobody took me up on that offer, which was such a shame. Well, I don't know. I mean, tomorrow is Naked Gardening Day, so I would say to you, stay. I'll keep you posted. Keep your eyes open. That's all I'm going to say. Right. Any more questions? I don't know. Oh, have you ever grown chocolate beauty peppers? Oh, this is another one from
Mm.
Heather. No, I haven't. I've grown various other peppers and chilies, and they seem to have, they grew really well last year. Just a couple of things. Now, when you transplant your little seedlings, most of them need to be sown deep, which basically means that the entire stem needs to go in the compost, and all you need poking out of the top is the leaves. So that goes for brassicas, tomatoes, most other things. The only things that need to be planted high are aubergines. So when you transplant your little aubergine seedlings, make sure that, excuse me, that they're at the same depth as they were in the potting compost, because they don't like to be put down deep. And also peppers, so your sweet peppers and your chilies. Okay, that's as a general rule. Okay, but no, I haven't grown the black ones, but I've grown lots of other ones, and they seem to have done very well. Do you grow grapes? From Mick Hurst 24. Yes, I have 2 grapevines. One, I have no idea. In fact, both of them, I have no idea what variety they are. The reason being, the bigger one that I've got was in a big pot. When my auntie and uncle used to live in the UK before they moved to Surrey, before they moved from Surrey to Spain. Now they've actually moved back to the UK. Don't ask. And they had a grapevine, and they asked if I wanted it. So I said yes. So I had that when we lived in our other house, and it produced tiny little sort of black grapes which had pips in them. I have no idea what variety it was, but it was really, really nice. The other grape that I have got was where I used to work. It didn't have a label on it. So they told me to put it on the pile, and I said, well, can't I take it home and give it home? So I have. So I have no idea what variety either of them are, but they're growing. I've got a structure, a metal sort of structure going up. So I'm hoping in several years' time that it will grow up, or they'll both grow up, and then I'll have lots of grapes dangling down. Another one from Sean. What are the positives and negatives of gardening at home compared to the allotment? Well, I would say the positives are that when you get home from work, you can just pop out into the garden for about half an hour, and everything is at home. I used to, when I had the allotment, I had to get 2 hoes, I had to have 2 forks, I had to have 2 of this, 2 of that, because you needed some at home, and then you needed some down the allotment. So it's only, you can just pop out into the garden, do a little bit of titivating, and then come back in. You're in and out, which is, for me, is great. I don't have as much gardening space down here as I did on the allotment. So I guess that's a disadvantage, but I was growing a huge amount of stuff when I was on the allotment. I've got raised beds in the garden here, which is really nice because I can control the areas and the outsides. There is less grass to mow, because when I had the allotment, you'd have little paths going up the middle and down the sides to divide the beds off, and sometimes those would encroach. Personally, I prefer it here out in the garden, because I can wake up in the morning, look out of the window, and I can see it all. And you're not sharing a tap. I know it sounds really selfish, but you're not sharing a tap with half a dozen other people going, I really need to water, but they're hosing, and my butt's empty, and this, that. Yes, I knew that was gonna, honestly, you just can't trust him. You really can't. He's like a child. So you can do things as you want, when you want, and not that anybody ever did judge you when you were down there, but you know, if something's a little bit messy, it doesn't really matter. So yes, I can, and I've got both the greenhouses here, which is great, which I really do enjoy. Oh, so he keeps circling things. Do you think you'll ever get another allotment? No, I won't. I won't. I'm quite happy with having the garden here. We have said that if we ever come into a huge amount of money, we'd like to buy the field at the bottom of the garden, which would be really nice. But there are 3 horses living in there at the moment, so the likelihood of that ever happening, I think, is quite small. But if we ever did get a little bit more, then I think I would do maybe an orchard. I'd have some, you know, fruit trees and things like that, and maybe some nut trees, and then I would move the beds out, and then we'd have the grass or the garden back, a little bit more of the garden. But yeah, I prefer what I've got here, much prefer, but never will get another allotment. Any news about, oh sorry, do you know what, I read that as any news about new blokes. I was thinking, I'm married, thank you very much, I'm quite happy. Any news about any new books? Well, what I am doing, because I've been doing the Claire's Allotment Essentials books, I don't know whether you've seen those, but you can get those on Kindle. Thank you very much. They're 99p each, but if you go on my Claire's Allotment blog, they're there. So yes, and Kindle. So there's loads there. But what we are doing is we're compiling a load of them into, in fact, all of them into one book, and then I'm adding an extra few. And we're just working on that. We've got a cover, and I've just got to do a little bit more, you know, a few more bits and pieces to go with that, and then that will be coming out. So yes, that's another one. And I'm writing a book about a battery hen, which I again need to do a few more bits about. That children's book, that is. So it's easier to do writing when it's not gardening season. But I'm having to do both at the moment, so it's just trying to find the time. So I'm thinking, please rain one day. Do you know what?
I'll say it out loud.
Sean has said, how about a Claire's Allotment calendar? Do you know what? I have been thinking about this, and there's a couple of ladies down the road who follow Claire's Allotment, and we garden together, and we meet up every couple of weeks, and they're very sweet. They are both literally just down the road, and we have been discussing as to whether we would do that. If we ever did, it would be for a charity. But anyway, I don't know.
Is this more nudity? This is the first I've heard of it.
Oh, we've been talking about it, but strategically placed plants and pots and things.
Do you need a photographer?
We may well do.
Right, I'm in.
Yes.
Okay,
Heather, I planted horseradish last spring. How long before I can harvest some? Any do's and don'ts for horseradish? I have got horseradish. I moved it actually when we moved, and I've got some just down there, which on the next update I will show you. It's just started to come back. Just leave it to settle, I would suggest, for an entire year. So I put mine in nearly, well, this is its second season, so I can start to harvest it in the autumn of this year. So if yours has just gone in, I would say leave it this year and then harvest some next year. The leaves will come up, they will grow during the summer. When it starts to get cold again, then they will die back. Clear all those leaves away, give it a good sort of dressing with manure or any organic matter, and it will go to sleep over the winter. And then make sure it stays watered throughout the summer. And then next year, at sort of autumn next year when the leaves die back, then you can dig some up. So you're going to have to get a big fork in there, and you can rip it apart when you dig some up. Only take off a small section at a time. You will take a chunk off, and just whatever is left, just shove back in. Okay, and it will sort itself out. It is one of the most hardiest plants I have ever come across. And the horseradish that you dig up will be incredibly hot, very strong, so you will only need a small amount of it. It is absolutely wonderful. But yes, just look after it. We have got 5 minutes left. Somebody naked gardening, Claire's top tips. Yes, I know. Right, Sean has said, final question. If you had to restart your channel again, is there anything you would have done differently?
More nudity.
More nudity. Well, you know what? I look back at some of the very sort of early videos, and apart from it being sort of not particularly high definition, it's all very listen with mother type thing. And the more I've done them, I'd like to think that the more natural they have become. I don't think I would do anything differently. It was handy now we've got a microphone, so it's sort of I don't have to talk quite so loudly, because when I was on the allotment and you were filming, and the camera could never be particularly far away because otherwise you couldn't be heard. And I went down once and there was a sports area right next to it, and some school was having their sports day, and you couldn't do any filming because all you could hear was clap, clap, you know, and it was just like, oh, do you know what I'm trying to do? It's nice. It's much easier to have the microphone now. If we'd have got a microphone earlier on, I think that would have been useful, but it just didn't happen. But no, I don't think I would have changed anything. I'm quite happy with the way they've gone. They've matured, a bit like me. Oh dear, no, don't do that. That makes it even worse. So yes, grown old gracefully. So yes. Oh, and Mick Hurst has said, have you planted out your French beans yet? I have some plants in the greenhouse. I haven't even started my French beans yet. I haven't even started my runner beans yet. I start mine about 3 or 4 weeks before they are due to go out. So therefore I can't plant mine out until the beginning of June. So it is something that I am going to do on Sunday, because that will give them plenty of time. I find that about 4 weeks, sowing them 4 weeks before they're due to go out is perfect, because they're just the right size. They should be about 9 inches high by then, and they'll be easy to move. If they get much taller, then they start making out with each other, and it's really, really difficult to untwist mine yet. They will be planted on Sunday. Did you like this? Shall we do more? Oh, yes, right. Sorry.
You're supposed to read that in your head.
Oh, I don't do that. Mark has said, look, give me this.
Look,
Right,
cue cards. It's like Anchorman. You just read out whatever's put in front of you.
I'm Brick. Just don't talk in my earpiece. No, I don't have an earpiece. Mark said, if you liked this, and would you like me to do more, then please let me know, and then we can do some more.
Did you like this?
I did, actually. It's been jolly good fun. A little bit nerve-wracking to start with, but once you're going, it's like waiting to do a play. You're waiting backstage. Once you get on, then that's fine. So yes, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. It's been very nice to Heather's one more. This was great. Oh, thank you so much, Claire. Always make me smile. Oh, thank you very much. It always makes me smile. I love receiving comments from everybody. And thank you very much for taking the time and watching the videos. I really do appreciate it. And also thank you for commenting, whatever way, questions that you have, things that have worked. It's always so nice to finally, sort of to hear from some of you saying, I've tried this and it's not worked until I did what you said. So thank you very much. Well, look, I'm afraid we have come to an hour now. The time is up, but thank you all so very, very much. And I am now going to have a bit of alcohol. See you soon. Bye-bye.